Hey, it's Aaron, and today I'm going to talk about BreadTube. Yes, so this is something that I think needs to be discussed. It's something that a lot of people have been pussyfooting around, or at least when they have addressed it, they've addressed it in a way of, hey, I'm going to complain about this problem, but I'm not going to give any information on how to solve it. And today I'm going to do what I said at the beginning of making this channel, and offer some solutions, because that's really the whole modus operandi of this channel, is to hopefully get some solutions out to the people. Praxis is how we get things fucking done, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Fucking praxis. So let's get into it. Alright, so the main problem that BreadTube has is infighting. Let's not pussyfoot around it. A lot of people have a lot of problems with a lot of other people for a lot of really good reasons. And it is destroying not just BreadTube, but every community all across the online sphere. We can't just assume that we live inside of a little bubble in our corner of YouTube and assume that we are the only ones that deal with this infighting. It's very much a problem that happens with every single community. You see it with white nationalists, you see it with libertarians, you see it with liberals, you see it with literally every community. But the thing is, though, we aren't like every other community. We are trying to have a specific goal. We're trying to obtain a specific thing. And our group, our community, infighting with each other means that we are working against making that goal come to fruition. So obviously we have to do something to stop that, and I have 5, you gotta count them, 5 ways that I'm going to talk about today on how we can stop all of this infighting. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying this isn't a problem that is unsolvable, ladies and gentlemen and non-binary people out there. This is something that is very much solvable, and something that has been solved countless times in the past by our enemy, capitalism. That's right, capitalists have come up with wonderful solutions on how to solve infighting, because their primary goal is to make money. And when people are fighting within their teams, they aren't making the maximum amount of profit that they possibly can be. So obviously they've done a lot of research into how they can make sure that groups aren't fighting within themselves. And I've taken a lot of that research and I've read it, and I'm going to talk about some of the solutions that they've come up with here with you today. And I hope and pray that everybody out there takes a second to watch this video, or at least learns a little bit about how we can get rid of infighting within our group, so we can move forward from this and fucking win, everybody. So, alright. The very first thing that we have to talk about is that we have to accept that there's actually a problem. We have to accept that we are infighting all of the time, and we want to basically have the same thing. For the most part, anybody that I'm talking to here, when I'm saying the same thing, I'm talking about ending capitalism and fighting against any unjustified or unnecessary hierarchy. That can be racial, that can be sexual, that can be monetary, it doesn't matter what it is, but fighting against hierarchies and fighting against the economic system that perpetuates those hierarchies at the moment. That is the main goal that we have as leftists, especially our far left version of leftists goes. And we have to accept that there actually is a problem here. We are having a massive problem with community building, and that's something that we have to address. The next thing that we have to talk about is the problems we're having with each other. So number 2 is actually airing the grievances. A couple of days ago, it actually might have been a week or 2 ago now, depending on when I release this video, there was a big hoopla on Twitter that kind of not necessarily got started by me, but it was definitely started by another YouTuber, and I retweeted their video, and it ended up bringing a lot of people to this conversation about what we are angry about within the BreadTube community. Specifically, this conversation had to do with the dirtbag left versus the SJW left, and a lot of really great YouTubers got involved in all of this. And I'll link some really awesome YouTubers that got involved in this in the description box below. But it opened up my eyes to the fact that we actually are able to sit down and talk to one another and air our grievances and have each other, to a certain extent, listen. Now, obviously, some people made some incredibly bad takes during that little powwow that we had with each other. But there are also a lot of good takes, and a lot of people, I think, walked away from that with a better understanding of each other's arguments. Didn't necessarily mean that everybody got along or was convinced by the other party, but at least we were able to air some grievances. And that's important, because when you actually air these things, when you actually lay them out on the table, and not in a combative way, but in a very factual, this is how things are kind of way, then you end up finding a way to work with that person if that's your goal. Or if that isn't your goal, then to at least fight the capitalist system or the hierarchy instead of fighting within each other. Now, that leads me perfectly to the next point that I was going to talk about, which is that we have to have realistic expectations. So point number 3, have realistic expectations of what you actually think you can accomplish from airing these grievances. Now, remember, we are all very ideological motherfuckers, right? We all really, really strongly believe a lot of shit. And there are extremely big personalities out there that will always clash. That's the thing about our specific little group and our corner of this type of platform, is that it encourages large, bombastic personalities to come out and attack each other, or to come out and have different opinions than one another, and it creates conflict. That's something that we always have to understand is going to happen, so we have to have realistic expectations from that. You're never going to be able to convince everybody in the group that a certain person that is combative is actually on their side or is 100% a good guy, right? You have to have realistic expectations when it comes to a lot of this kind of stuff. For example, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to convince a lot of the SJW left to fall in love with Vaush. That shouldn't be our goal. He's going to do bombastic, exciting things that is going to make a lot of people angry. That's something that we have to realize, and we have to accept that that's going to happen. That doesn't mean that you have to love him or that you have to hate him or anybody else that works that way. It just means that we have to have realistic expectations for what we want out of actually coming together as some sort of force. Now, that being said, realistic expectations are important, and with that comes the 4th thing, which is patience, empathy, respect, and understanding. Basically, allowing one person to speak and actually listen to them and not just hear what they have to say. Actually understand and take in the things that they're saying so you can better understand that person's position. Here's the thing, guys, gals, and NPALs, I love that term. If we aren't able to empathize and respect and understand the other person's position, then we're never going to be able to move forward. And if our goal is to work together, then work together. Or if our goal is to fight against a system, then we're never going to be able to fight against that system. All we're ever going to do is have this animosity that's going to build up and create more tensions and more problems. So when it comes to respect, that means that in our group, right, that means that we have to show each other a certain amount of respect. And we have to actually give each other the benefit of the doubt and not immediately jump to the assumption that everybody is going to project the worst possible argument that they can think of. We have to actually assume that they're acting in good faith unless given ample evidence as to the contrary. That's one of the very first rules when it comes to debating somebody, is actually giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're coming to you in good faith. So that's something that we have to do. Obviously, that's not going to work with every single person. And if you're out there and you don't want to engage with people that you find toxic, that's fine. But it is also important that we have those arguments and those understandings out there so people can hear those grievances and people can understand where everybody is coming from. I think that's the main thing that we have to take away from point number 4. And point number 5, I've been alluding to this since the very beginning. We have to have a common goal. That's the number one thing that we all have to be worrying about. And that's one of the main things that I talk about in all of my videos when I'm talking about how anarchists, cats, right, are able to be organized and herded together, is that we are never going to agree 100% on anybody else's political ideology, right? We're not going to 100% agree with syndicalists or 100% agree with whatever it is, democratic socialists or whatever, right? We all have different ideas, different opinions, different beliefs, different philosophies, and different ways of going about getting there. All of those are necessary, and all of those are important for us to actually win, right? So if our goal, which I have been saying this entire time, is fighting capitalism and fighting hierarchies, no matter where they come from, all unjustified or unnecessary, then we are actually focusing on a solution instead of not focusing and just aimlessly making more problems for ourselves. When we don't have a specific goal that we're fighting towards, then we are inevitably going to get frustrated that there's no accomplishments happening. My English is terrible right now. We're going to get frustrated that we're not seeing any accomplishments, and we're going to start thinking that there are no accomplishments that we can make in the outside world. Therefore, we need to attack other people within our little realm. And that's not a situation that we want to be in. We want to be in a situation where we can actually fight for a goal and make sure that goal comes to pass. Because if we don't, then we lose. But it's okay, because we know now that there are at least 5 different ways or 5 steps that we can go through to help alleviate a lot of this infighting. Now, with all of that being said, obviously there are real problems that actually both sides, the dirtbag left and the SJW left, have with each other. Those are real problems, and they're real conversations that we need to be having in good faith. If we aren't doing that, then we're going to continue misunderstanding each other, and we're not going to be able to unify and work together. Community building means actually building the community, and not just giving that lip service and then saying that half of the community needs to be kicked out because of certain grievances. We can't kick people out of the left, right? All we can do is work towards a single goal. And like I said, that goal should be fighting capitalism and abolishing and dismantling and questioning all unjustified and unnecessary hierarchies. So obviously I left a lot of things out. If you do get a chance, please leave comments in the description or in the comment section down below. Talk about different ways that we could actually come together and work towards unifying to some extent, at least under a common goal. Let's air some of our grievances, if we will, but not in a combative way. Let's try to listen to each other. Let's try to have a conversation. And, you know, I have faith in everybody. Let's try to do this. So check out my Patreon. Every dollar helps fund this show. Thanks for watching.